Sam Rayburn Reservoir and the $137,000 Texas Invitational. The competition is tough, as are the conditions, but regardless of how tough it is, one Bassmaster here today is going to be $32,000 richer. The angler who put together the perfect winning pattern under changing conditions. You'll also see a come from behind last-minute charge in 20 minutes that just about changes everything. It's a great tournament with some of the most classic seasonal pattern fishing. Stay tuned. I'm Ray Scott. The Bassmasters will be right back.
Sam Rayburn Reservoir near Jasper, Texas, and the first day of the BASS Texas Invitational. For many of the 290 Bassmasters competing here, this is their favorite lake, and for a simple reason. The fishing is good, oftentimes great. And the bigger, heavier bass this lake is known for can quickly add the pounds and ounces to the angler's total weight of bass for the year. Weight that makes the difference in qualifying for the Bassmasters Classic, the World Championship of Professional Bass Angling. The time now is late March, and up until a day or so ago, the bass were in the shallows, many on the spawning beds. But a cold front has moved through, and the lake is being drawn down. Falling water and colder temperatures are a bad combination. The bass in extremely shallow water will back off with the colder receding water. The bass that stay become more cautious, more finicky in their feeding. As in most BASS tournament competitions, the anglers who can adapt to changing conditions are the ones who'll collect the biggest paychecks. The approach of many of the anglers fishing this tournament is different from previous years. The regulations now state the competitors can bring 5 14-inch bass to the scales. Previously, they were allowed to weigh in 7 12-inch fish. The change means the competitors must fish for better quality bass and not rely on numbers of smaller fish as in other tournaments. This means different approaches, but regardless of angling techniques, someone always bags the bass.
Ron Sheffield's from Arkansas with a bag full of bass. My friend, Ron, I just want to be able to have my picture taken with you. Lay him on the scale. We got a new leader, folks.
I'm taking the bed, right?
All right, the weight? 21 pounds even. Boy, look at here. All right, out of the way. Pull it, reach in and pull out the largest bass and hold it up for these folks over here to see. Look here, folks. There is a Texas killer. Now, that's the biggest bass, and look at this fish and look at him beautifully. Folks, lay a fresh basket up here. This bass, would you say, how much do you think he'll weigh, Ron?
I hope he weighs 8.5. Somebody said they think he'll weigh 10.
What's the largest you ever caught in your life?
Well, I had big bass down here last year, Ray, with a 6'11", and I felt really fortunate to catch this fish. I've never caught a 9-pounder. If it weighs that, I want it. I caught this fish on 8-pound test line.
Woo, Heart Attack City. All right, lay her in there nice and easy. Nice and easy. Now watch the scale with me. Come on, get down close.
8.
10 pounds, 4 ounces.
Right. That's great. That's great. Now, I ain't never caught a fish that big in my life.
Well, you know you have the right. This is a very old fish, and you have the right to have it mounted if you like.
Well, I definitely would like to have it mounted, Ray.
How about it, folks? Can you tell us this is a once-in-a-lifetime deal? You know, you don't do this, but just, you know, very few people in the world, when you pay your entry fee, you can vote. Catch your release. This guy got his hand in his pocket. He's probably a banker, so he got all the money in the world. Probably financing these people. Listen, seriously, this bass was caught. Would you tell us what? You don't make it. There's no secret. What were you doing? Where were you doing it, and what happened?
I was fishing a 4-inch worm in about 7 feet of water whenever the fish hit the lure, and I was actually using 8-pound test line. I was really lucky to get the fish. I had a great partner today, Mr. Hewlin Walker. You know, you don't have a net rule, and I asked Hewlin if he would mind lipping the fish. When she jumped, I think from the distance, I thought she was about a 5-pound fish. But when she got up closer to the boat, he quickly got down and did one of the greatest jobs, just reached right down there and lifted her after she wore out. It took about 5 minutes to get her in the boat, you know, just kind of play her down. But I feel great about this. I really do. That's all I can say.
How about it, folks? Let's give a great hand. Oh, what a thrill.
And how does last year's Texas Invitational winner feel about what's happening?
A lot of different things were happening today as far as the way the fish positioned compared to other years when we were down here. In past years, the fish would be just about a designated place in the cover. You knew exactly where you'd have to cast in order to catch them. Now today, throughout the day, they'd continually move to different spots. They'd be on the outside of the cover, then they'd get in tight to the cover. They'd be on the bottom, then they'd be up right underneath the surface. So you had to continually adjust your cast and try to just more or less guess and just try to catch an isolated fish here and there. In fact, a couple of the fish I caught, I even saw hit the bait. So fishing's not real good, but if you go out there and work hard and just try to cover a lot of water, doing a lot of different things, I feel you can catch a limit.
Stay tuned as a different technique proves itself the second day. The Bassmasters will be right back. The conditions this second day are much the same, falling water. But one angler who established an earlier shallow water pattern is still fishing it with success. Missouri's Guido Hibden is called the master of the Gitsit, a small worm-like lure. He presents it sight fishing, casting to shallow, visible bass. A problem that Guido readily admits he faces with this small lure and light 8-pound test line is the probability of losing fish. There's just so much you can do with light line and big bass in the bushes. But one thing's for sure. You can't get them out of the cover unless first you get them on. And getting them on is a problem for the first day leader, Ron Shuffield. Not only is the high wind hampering his efforts with the small worm he's fishing in open water, but also the cloud cover is a problem. When the sun's up and skies clear, bass will tend to stick tighter to the cover. With lower light conditions, the bass tend to roam away from the cover. But someone always brings bass to the scales.
Guido Hibden, folks. Guido had 16 pounds and 9 ounces yesterday. Today brings in a limit, another limit of bass. 10 pounds, 5 ounces for Guido Hibden. Guido, now that's double duty. You and the boy, your son, Dion, were both in the top 20 yesterday, and this is your third place yesterday. This ought to hold you up there pretty close.
I hope so. I didn't fish real good today. I don't know what happened. I broke off a couple of fish that there was no call to break off, and you don't win tournaments by losing them easy ones.
Yeah, we got one more day, Guido. Thank you very much.
And for some, the fishing's so tough, they can't even catch them in a barrel. Stay tuned. The Bassmasters will be right back. The top positions are crowded this last morning of the Texas Invitational. Guido Hibden leads, but he knows many of his shallow bass have backed off. Ron Shuffield is having problems getting the bites he needs. And Denny Brower, who won this tournament in 1984 and 1986, admits his bass are scattered. That is, two areas are far apart and the fish are not biting. Although there are bass all over this lake, it's important to understand the seasonal changes of Rayburn. The lake fluctuates about 7 or 8 feet during the year, lowest in the summer. At that point, hydrilla, a grass-like weed, grows. Any hump or ridge out of the water when the lake is low does not have the hydrilla, nor does the exposed shoreline as a result of the lower water level. When the water goes back up, the hydrilla starts at a depth of about 7 feet, leaving bald spots on the humps and ridges and creating a second shoreline as far as 200 to 300 yards from the bank. Many of these post-spawn bass relate to that second or false shoreline, like this Bassmaster's fish.
White Shoes Touring is leading this tournament by about 11 pounds. Am I right?
35 total.
35 pounds total.
Yes.
Now, for David Wharton here, he's got to have 11 pounds, and if he has it, he'll pull into the lead.
11 pounds,
He needs 11 pounds, 7 ounces to pull into the lead. Bingo. 13 pounds, 12 ounces. Now, you're in the lead. You just pulled ahead of White Shoes Torian.
Well, there's a lot of awful good fishermen still out there, so we'll just have to wait and see.
You got to sweat another 2 flights.
I know it, and most of them that were catching them are in those other 2 flights, so we'll just have to hang around and see what happens.
Well, get some of those fat people to sit on your feet because you're shaking right now. You're so nervous. Hold up a couple of the bigger bass. Yeah, these bass are all about the same. They're just beautiful fish. I want to tell you. They're all 2.5 pounds or so. Hold more close together. Look at that. Aren't those nice?
Come around this way.
Let's give him a nice hand, folks. This has come from behind fishing.
Find out about you,
David, we want to take, if we may, just a second of your time and ask a question, because we've got hundreds and hundreds of people here from all around this part of the Texas and Louisiana fascinated by what's happening and curious to know what you did as far as the lure and the technique to catch these bass.
I was fishing about 7 to 10 feet of water on the inside grass lines, throwing a crankbait, and then when I would catch one, I would throw a marker out and fish all around that area with a worm. Usually could pick up another fish or two doing that. The fish were pretty well bunched up once you found them. They were difficult to find a lot of days. You really had to work a lot and cover a lot of water, but once you found the right little spot, you could catch several fish right quick.
Which crankbait were you using?
I was using a number 9 shad wrap, one of those great big crankbaits, running it real slow and just kind of ticking the top of that moss with it.
No, that's great. Well, we appreciate it. Good luck, and we'll be sweating with you.
Thank you.
All right. There you go, folks. A nice hand, great fisherman, and a great sport, Dave Horton.
And always to be reckoned with, Roland Martin.
He needs 20 pounds, 5 ounces to tie the lead. Now, folks, Roland Martin in classic form has a magnificent stringer bass. Maybe the biggest of the day. Who knows? But this man has won more honors and won more tournaments than anybody we know of, plus is all-time money winner of the world. He had 2 mediocre days and laying back in, what did I say, 40th place, Cobb? 35th place. What's he got to have to put in the lead? 20 pounds, 5 ounces will tie the lead. 20 pounds, 5 ounces. What's the scales? 18 pounds, 12 ounces. Let's give a nice hand, folks. I'll tell you, maybe. You said he's still looking. 18, 12. Okay. All right, reach in and get a couple of those pretty bad. Folks, he's got, this is Roland Martin style. He's a guy that pulls more rabbits out of more half to pull those back. Look here, folks. Hold them up right nice and high where the cameras can see. Roland, it's over, and you've come up from out of sight to just within inches of the lead. Tell us with a whisper what lure you were using and quickly the technique.
Well, about an hour ago, I had one fish. I pulled up to a little willow clump that George Smith and Richard Vance and I had been fishing near the Black Forest. And I said, well, we might catch one here. Anyway, I went around that thing. In 5 minutes, I had 3 of these big ones, and then in one more pass, I had the other. So I caught them all in 20 minutes.
I don't want to hear any more. You want to weigh the big one? Sure, we'll weigh the big one. This big fish is going to go about 7 pounds. What do you think, Roland? What do you think? Bigger than that? Yeah. It's a heavy fish. Oh, big bass of the day, 7 pounds, 15 ounces. Woo, son.
And last year's winner.
Now, folks, a man who's right up in the top, Denny Breyer, of 3rd place with 26 pounds from Missouri, brings in 2 bass, and he ain't happy.
It was rather disappointing, Ray, but, you know, that's fishing. You got to take the bad with the good, I guess.
You weigh today 3 pounds, 7 ounces. That's not going to do it. I had a feeling that you might blow this thing away with another one of your come-from-behind victories, and you being the winner in 1984 and 1986, I just thought you had it all together.
Well, this lake's been awful good to me. I can't complain if I never get another bite here, that's for sure. But I did try to win the tournament today. I wasn't, you know, going to sit around and catch another 8 pounds like yesterday. And by doing that, you're very subject not to get a bite. And I might be fortunate I just caught the 2 I did.
You know who's leading this tournament right now, don't you?
No, I really don't.
Bob Cobb, am I correct? David Horton is leading by how many ounces and pounds? 37 pounds, 2 ounces.
Well, David Wharton is probably one of the finest fishermen that's ever fished this lake. He guides here, and he knows it very well, and he's been long overdue to win a tournament here. He's been close several times, and I know he was real disappointed, and I took it away from him once or twice before, and I would really like to see him win it.
He's a good man. Thank you a lot, Denny Breyer. We'll see you next trip around.
And the Texas Invitational champion.
David, I want to tell you how pleased we are for you, and this you've been deserving this a long time.
Well, it's been a long time coming. It really feels good to finally win one of these tournaments, and especially to win it here on Sam Rayburn. This lake has been a big part of my life for a long time, and I really love it. It feels great to win a tournament, and do it on a home lake is even better.
Dave, you realize that you don't you don't have to apologize for fishing a home lake because you fish with us from coast to coast, and every tournament you're there, and you're always in the money virtually every time. And we're proud of the fine job you've done. And if you're going to win one, you might as well win one close to home so all your kin folks and everybody else can enjoy the spoils of your victory.
Well, that's very true. And without a lot of support from family and friends, you know, we can't do all this. We can run around all over the country fishing. My wife really supports me, and I appreciate that. I love her. Her name's Ann, and we get along great.
But if she lets you fish that much, she deserves it. Nice hand, folks. We appreciate it very much. Dave Wharton, we'll see you later.
All right.
By the way...
And how did the champion catch his bass?
Dave Wharton, you've just won this fantastic tournament, your first tournament ever be won here on this lake, Sam Rayburn. But I think something unique has happened. I've just understood earlier that you use a technique we've never seen, and that's going out here and fishing a special area of 7, 8 foot of water and sweeping that bait a long diving bait. Is this the bait you're using?
Right. It's a number 9 Rapala shad wrap is what it is.
Well, tell us what you were doing and how deep the water was and so forth.
I was fishing about 7 to 8 feet of water in a big moss flat, basically, was what I was fishing. It was the fluctuation in the lake here is about 7 or 8 feet through the year, and the moss will grow, does not grow in less than 7 feet of water. And basically this time of the year, it's a good pattern to get right on the inside moss line and fish with a crankbait and a worm.
Okay, so you're going down to about fishing with a moss that's down about 7 feet, and you're throwing this crankbait, long cast. Show us how you were cranking it.
Well, I was making as long a cast as I could with a crankbait and cranking it down to try to get it just barely touch the top of the moss. And then when I got it down there, I was just kind of sweeping it and letting it stop and kind of bump the moss and then float back up and then kind of bump it again.
Okay, then you caught a fish, you boated that fish, and then what happened?
I was keeping this marker right up by me.
Now this marker is a piece of lead on a floating deal that you use to mark a spot, eh?
Right. I was fishing out in the lake really about 400 yards from anything that I could line up on, so I needed something to keep me right in the area where the fish were. So as soon as I got a bite, you know, I kept the marker right here, and as soon as I caught a fish or had a bite, I would just kick it over, and then I would have some kind of reference point as to where the fish were located.
Okay, so you would know that the fish from this marker buoy, the fish you caught was right out in here, and you would then do what?
Well, I would continue to fish the crankbait in that area for probably 15 or 20 casts, and then I'd pick up a worm and throw around in the same area. And it worked.
It dang sure did. Yes, you're the winner of this affair, and that technique, I don't know, that it's been used in the fashion for years, but the marker buoy is a very important element of your success because it gave you a reference point as to where you were catching those fish.
Absolutely, yes.
Every fisherman should remember that.
They should, definitely.
Mighty good.
Don't run off and leave your fish when you get a bite or two.
Right now, it's time for the Pros Pointer, the how-to section of the Bassmasters. Brought to you by AC Delco.
One of the characteristics of a buzzbait is that you get a lot of short strikes. What we do to eliminate those or to attach a trailer hook, I'm going to show you 2 different types of trailer hooks. One of them is the standard trailer hook that you can buy in most any tackle store. It's a standard trailer hook with a little piece of surgical tubing. You just stick that right over the eye of the hook and on to the buzzbait. What this does, it keeps that hook sticking out behind it in a fixed position. This buzzbait you can probably throw in most any kind of cover. Now the other one you probably are not familiar with. This one I'm going to use a treble hook as a trailer. And what I've done here, I've taken 3 split rings, and on one end I've attached a treble hook, and the other end is a piece of surgical tubing. We're going to stick that right over the hook like we did with the standard trailer hook. Now the reason we're going to use this on the back of that buzzbait, it will pivot around. When you hit some brush or a stump or something, when the buzz bait hits it, it will actually knock this treble hook around and keep it from hanging up. That's the reason we've got it where on these split rings where it will swivel. The treble hook will definitely catch more fish than the standard trailer hook.
David Wharton's win on Sam Rayburn was classic bassing, and he knew what he had to do, and he did it all the way, to the tune of $32,000, a deserving win. And talking about wins, next week we'll see a Bassmaster earned $108,000 in 6 days' work. I'm talking megabucks, folks, and that's where we'll be in Leesburg, Florida for the $730,000 Megabucks 3 tournament. You'll enjoy it when the top 10 survivors go rod to rod on a 10-hole course with big bucks on the line. For the Bassmasters, this is Ray Scott, and we'll see you next week.
The Bassmaster.